and this, and give you
a princess.
The Princess Diaries is only for teenage girls? Wrong. It has a huge male fan base, too, like you and me. Because this movie was never just about dresses, crowns, and princess stuff. It was an explosion at the start of the 2000s, made hundreds of millions of dollars, turned Anne Hathaway into a star, and left a whole generation unable to forget Mia's classic transformation. But Hollywood is not kind. This movie lifted young faces way up high, then beat them down in the most painful ways. One person almost drowned in the spit of online crowds. One person went through a marriage that felt like hell. Somebody else nearly died after a traumatic brain injury. Today we are going to look at how harsh real life got for this cast after that makeover fairy tale settled down. And make sure you stay until the end of the video. I have the 5 most interesting behind-the-scenes facts about this movie saved for the people who still want to go back to the most romantic stretch of their younger years. Number 1, Anne Hathaway as Mia Thermopolis. Let's start with the girl America basically watched.
You're late.
Grow up right in front of them.
Sorry about it.
Anne Hathaway as Mia Thermopolis was not just the awkward princess in a Disney movie. For a whole lot of men back then, she was just flat out captivating. For women, she was that makeover dream everybody understood. When The Princess Diaries came out in 2001, Anne was 19. This year she is 44. And what is impressive is that she did not get stuck wearing that teen crown forever. Starting with Mia, Anne went straight into the top tier of Hollywood stars, then won an Oscar, and built the kind of career very few young stars from her era could ever keep up with. Getting famous fast is not rare. Every year, Hollywood has a few faces people hype up and then forget. Anne was different because she got hugely famous, then got hit back hard, and still did not break. The first public collision was the Raffaello Folieri mess. Anne was never charged, but right when her career was taking off, she got pulled way too close to her ex-boyfriend's fraud and money laundering scandal, the kind of chaos that could make any young star freeze up. Then came an even more bitter stretch, the thing people called Hathaway. Anne admitted there was a point when people did not even want to cast her because her image had become toxic online. And it did not stop there. Anne revealed that she had a miscarriage in 2015 while performing in Grounded off-Broadway, and every night she still had to act out a childbirth scene on stage while dealing with a real loss in her actual life. After that, she quit drinking not for image reasons, but because she knew very clearly it no longer fit who she was. Now that she's in her 40s, Anne says she does not live like she has to be perfect all the time anymore. She is softer, steadier, and has her family as her anchor. Anne has been with Adam Schulman since 2008, married him in 2012, and now they have 2 sons, Jonathan and Jack. Right now might actually be the best part. Anne is both on the cover of People's World's Most Beautiful 2026 and in the middle of a packed work year. She is back in The Devil Wears Prada, to which 20th Century Studios has set to release on May 1st, 2026, and at the same time she has confirmed she is still continuing work on The Princess Diaries 3. In other words, at 44, Anne Hathaway is still glowing, like time never really took anything important from her. Honestly, I still want to see her walk onto the screen a whole lot more because some stars are beautiful when they are young, but Anne Hathaway is rarer than that. She's the kind who got hit by life and only shine brighter after. Number 2, Julie Andrews as Queen Clarice Rinaldi. Julie Andrews walks into The Princess Diaries and suddenly the movie has a real queen. When the film came out in 2001, she was 66. This year she is 91. Before Clarice, Julie was already a giant in film and musicals, tied forever to Mary Poppins, The Sound of Music Broadway, and a singing voice that had basically become part of history. Julie Andrews' life was never as smooth as that elegant image she carried on screen.
I remember Julie and
She has talked about a rough childhood with a stepfather who drank, turned violent, and made home feel anything but peaceful. Then, in 1997, she had surgery on her vocal cords to deal with a benign problem, and that very operation took away her professional singing voice. In 1999, she sued the doctors at Mount Sinai. In 2000, the case was settled, But honestly, no settlement can give back the thing that helped make Julie Andrews a legend in the first place. Then, in 2010, she lost Blake Edwards, the husband she had been with since 1969, and he died at 88 with Julie by his side. What is so impressive is that she did not disappear after that tragedy. Julie changed the way she showed up. She sang less, but she kept acting, kept doing voice work, kept writing books, and kept the dignity of a major star completely intact. AFI gave her a Life Achievement Award, and then in 2025 she even won an Emmy for voicing Lady Whistledown in Bridgerton. As for the Princess Diaries 3, it is still this beautiful unfinished sentence, and kind of a sad one too. Number 3, Hector Elizondo as Joe. Joe is the man standing beside Mia from beginning to end.
You can call me...
When the girl is panicking, he is there. When Mia's whole world changes, he is still there. Hector Elizondo brought exactly what this role needed, the calm of a man who has lived long enough not to overdo anything. When the Princess Diaries came out in 2001, he was 65. This year he is 90. And before stepping into Joe, he was already a very solid Hollywood name, had already won an Emmy for Chicago Hope, and had a career stretching across both television and film. Hector Elizondo became a father at just 19, left college to work and support his family, and later even won custody of his son. His mother had dementia, his father took on caregiving until he was completely worn down, and Hector himself has talked about how badly that burden damaged the whole family. Later on, he spoke up a lot about Alzheimer's and the role of caregivers because he had seen the cost of it way too clearly. Then in 2016, Gary Marshall died. Hector called him his best friend. So with Joe and the Princess Diaries, that was not just a director passing away. It was a huge stretch of his professional and emotional life coming to an end. Now, Hector Elizondo is basically retired. Tony Shalhoub said in 2023 that he had more or less stopped acting and had to be persuaded to come back for Mr. Monk's last case. Joe has also not been confirmed yet for the Princess Diaries 3. Number 4, Heather Matarazzo as Lily Moscovitz. When the Princess Diaries came out in 2001, she was 19. This year she is 44. Before becoming Lily, Heather already had a very strong start. She had been acting since childhood, made her film debut at 12 in Welcome to the Dollhouse, then won an Independent Spirit Award for that role, so by the time she stepped into this movie, Heather was not some unknown face. She was already a young actress the indie film world knew by name, and Lily was the role that pushed her into mainstream memory. As for the Princess Diaries itself, Heather once said, Gary Marshall was the kind of director who made actors feel safe enough to fully let the character's energy out. One really valuable detail is that he cared so much about the Mia and Lily relationship that he made the chemistry read between Heather and Anne Hathaway a priority. And it absolutely worked. Heather also said she and Anne are still close friends in real life, so that feeling of closeness on screen was not something forced. Years later, Heather admitted something very honestly. She has had dozens of other projects in her career, but audiences still usually call her Lily Moscovitz first. Heather's real life never followed a fairy tale path. In 2017, she told The Guardian that she had gone from winning awards and getting praise to struggling so badly she thought about driving for Lyft just to pay rent. She said Hollywood made her hear words like ugly and ordinary, and she got rejected for so long that she started seeing herself through a really cruel lens. In that same conversation, Heather admitted that she had gone through periods where she thought about suicide. Then in 2022, Heather said she felt like she had been cast aside, like someone who had been working for a long time and was slowly getting pushed out to the edges. Heather is adopted, grew up in New York, came out as a lesbian in 2004, and is now married to writer and comedian Heather Turman. In recent years, she left Los Angeles and moved to Michigan with her wife. That is a huge change, and she has said she is grateful for it. She is still working, still getting new projects like a guest role on Wednesday, but it is pretty clear she pulled herself out of a machine that had been wearing her down for way too long. Number 5, Caroline Goodall as Helen Thermopolis, Mia's mother. Caroline Goodall plays Helen Thermopolis, Mia's mother. Without Helen, the Princess Diaries would just be dresses, etiquette, and a princess story. When the movie came out in 2001, Caroline was 42. This year, she is 67. And by the time she got to this film, she was already a very seasoned actress. Before that, Caroline had already done Hook, Cliffhanger, Schindler's List, Disclosure, and White Squall. Plain and Simple Helen was not the role that got her into Hollywood. The part needed someone experienced enough to give the mother-daughter side of the movie real weight, and Caroline Goodall did exactly that. Later on, her path was not easy either, at least not in the way it goes for an older woman in the industry. Caroline has said very clearly that after a certain point, she was no longer the kind of person Hollywood just automatically opened the door for. She had to teach herself more about film finance producing and how to push projects forward on her own. The Bay of Silence is the clearest example. She did not just act in it, she also wrote the script and helped produce it. Caroline has also admitted there were years when her life got split up between marriage, children, and work, so writing and developing projects got delayed for a long time. Now, Caroline Goodall is still working. During the 2025 to 2026 stretch, she still has projects like The Second Time Around, So Torn, and Storm Rider Legend of Hammerhead. Number 6. Robert Schwarzman as Michael Moskowitz. Robert Schwarzman plays Michael Moskowitz, Lily's brother, the guy who plays music, makes pizza, and is also the kindest romantic option Mia has in the first movie. When The Princess Diaries came out in 2001, he was 19. This year he is 44. Robert was born into the Coppola family, the son of Talia Shire and producer Jack Schwartzman and the brother of Jason Schwartzman. But he did not come into the business with the road already cleared for him. Robert himself has said he still had to audition even when working with Sofia Coppola on The Virgin Suicides, and that role was what helped Gary Marshall notice him and bring him into The Princess Diaries. Robert is not the kind of actor who was determined to live forever off the Disney boy image. Rooney was the thing he poured himself into very early. The band was formed in 1999, and as he got older, he leaned more and more into music, then into directing, producing, and distributing independent films. In 2018, he helped found Utopia. In recent years, people have talked about Robert more as a musician, the director of Dreamland: The Argument, The Good Half, and the guy behind Utopia, than as an actor. He has even said very plainly that he feels more confident standing on stage with Rooney than acting. The heaviest part of Robert's life came very early. His father, Jack Schwartzman, died of pancreatic cancer in 1994 when Robert was just 11. Robert has said later on that the loss never really disappeared, and when he was making The Good Half, he said straight out that the story of grief in the film hit him hard because he had lived through that kind of loss since childhood. That is the kind of sadness that is not loud, but stays with somebody forever. Now, Robert Schwartzman is still moving forward on the exact path he chose for himself: music, filmmaking, film, distribution, and a career that does not depend on old fame. Late in 2025, he said opening for ELO in 2024 made him want to write more new music for Rooney. Around that same time, he confirmed there had been early conversations about The Princess Diaries 3, and that he is currently just standing by. Number 7. Mandy Moore as Lana Thomas. Mandy Moore plays Lana Thomas, the most popular girl in school, Josh's girlfriend, and the face that always makes Mia feel like she is outside the whole game. When The Princess Diaries came out in 2001, Mandy was 17. This year she is 42. This was Mandy's first credited film role, but she was not unknown when she came into the movie. Mandy had already broken out in the late 1990s with Candy, so Lana felt like exactly the right turn from teen pop star to the big screen. She also sang Stupid Cupid for the movie's soundtrack, so Mandy's presence in The Princess Diaries was not just visual. Mandy went a long way after that movie. She did not stop at the hot schoolgirl role. Later on, audiences knew her from A Walk to Remember This Is Us and even Rapunzel's voice in Tangled. But the heaviest part of her life was not on screen. Mandy married Ryan Adams in 2009. That marriage fell apart in 2016. Years later, Mandy looked back on that part of her life and said very plainly that it pushed her into a place that felt empty and isolated. In 2019, she also publicly accused Adams of emotional abuse, controlling her music life and making her feel like her talent had been shrunk down during a really important part of her 20s. That is the kind of damage that does not leave visible bruises but can still throw a whole stretch of somebody's life off course. Mandy did not stop there. She once worried she might have endometriosis, had prepared herself for the possibility of surgery because pregnancy was not coming easily, and then later rebuilt her life with Taylor Goldsmith. They got married in 2018 and now have 3 children. Gus born in 2021, Ozzy born in 2022, and Lou born in 2024. Then in 2025, her family took another hit that came way too close when the Eaton fire in Altadena badly damaged their home, destroyed her husband's garage and music studio, and pretty much wiped out their belongings. Early in 2026, Mandy said, "Life as a mom of 3 felt like all hands on deck," and you hear that and instantly get it. There is just way too much going on in that house, but she is still there, still being a mother, still moving forward. Right now, Mandy Moore is still working steadily. She is part of The Breadwinner with Nate Bargatze, and Deadline has also confirmed Dan Fogelman's new Hulu series called The Land. Number 8, Erik von Detten as Josh Bryant. Erik von Detten played Josh Bryant, the hot guy at school, the one Mia liked so much she thought he was basically her whole teenage world. When The Princess Diaries came out in 2001, Erik was 19. This year he is 44. Josh is a role audiences remember really clearly, but Erik was not some new face who came up because of this movie. Before that, he was already a very familiar Disney name with Brink. So Weird, the voice of Sid in Toy Story, and then Irwin in Recess. So really, The Princess Diaries just drove one more very solid nail into the audience's memory of Erik von Detten. Erik's career did not fall apart in some loud, dramatic way. It slowed down pretty early. He told E! himself that once he got into his early 20s, acting started to level off. Right around then, another opportunity showed up. Erik started working for a finance company at 25, moved up from sales into management, and just stayed in that industry. He said very plainly that path worked out really well. That is why a face that had once been all over American teen screens disappeared from Hollywood so quickly. Erik also chose a life that looks very different from his old image. E! said he and his wife, Angela von Detten, now have 3 kids, Claire Thomas and Nicholas. People had already confirmed that Thomas was born in March 2021, and he later updated that Claire was born in 2019, and Nicholas in 2022. So most of Erik's adult life has not happened in front of a camera. It has happened in finance, marriage, and family life. Recently, Erik did come back a little bit. He reported that after years away from the screen, he appeared in the television movie My Acting Coach Nightmare in 2024. But if you look at the whole path of his life, this is not really a big comeback story. It is the story of a very loved Disney actor who turned toward a more ordinary life, a quieter life, and one he seems completely at peace with. Number 9, Sandra Oh as Vice Principal Gupta. Sandra Oh played Vice Principal Gupta, the school vice principal, and with just one phone call scene, she got one of the most remembered lines in the whole movie, "The Queen is coming." When The Princess Diaries came out in 2001, Sandra was 30. This year, she is 55. Gupta is a small supporting role, but looking back, that is what makes it interesting. This Disney movie kept one neat little piece of memory for Sandra, while her actual career life later went much, much farther. Britannica says Sandra Oh was born on July 20th, 1971, and calls her one of the actresses who helped break barriers for Asian women in Western entertainment. After The Princess Diaries, Sandra did not stay in charming supporting roles. She fully broke through with Grey's Anatomy, then Killing Eve, and the Television Academy notes that she earned multiple Emmy nominations for Grey's Anatomy. Then, in 2024, Quiz Lady won an Emmy for Outstanding Television Movie, and Sandra was part of the producing team on that film. So put simply, Gupta is just one tiny dot inside a very big career. The heaviest part of Sandra's story is not scandal, it is the price of fame. Talking to Variety in 2022, she said very plainly that after becoming famous from Grey's Anatomy, she got very, very sick. She talked about insomnia, back pain, her body being worn down, and then having to relearn how to protect both her physical health and her mental health. Sandra's private life is much more guarded than a lot of other people on this list. She was once married to director Alexander Payne, and that marriage ended just a few years later. Now, Sandra Oh is still going very strong. In 2024, she even played Gupta again on The Kelly Clarkson Show to introduce Anne Hathaway. And people made it clear that Sandra also said that if the Princess Diaries 3 happens, she would of course come back because it would be so much fun. By 2026, the National Theatre had also already started ticket sales for The Misanthrope, marking her debut on that London stage. Looking at Sandra. Oh, now the point is not how much screen time Gupta had. The point is that this very small supporting role belonged to a woman whose career became so big that audiences now remember both of them. Gupta from back then and Sandra Oh right now. Number 10, Larry Miller as Paolo Puttanesca. Larry Miller played Paolo Puttanesca, Mia's stylist, and with just one makeover scene, he grabbed one of the most remembered moments in all of the Princess Diaries. When the movie came out in 2001, Larry was 48. This year, he is 73. Before this film, he was already a very familiar face in American comedy with Pretty Woman, The Nutty Professor, 10 Things I Hate About You, Best in Show, and Boston Legal. So Paolo was not the role that started Larry Miller's career. It was a very clear example of how good he was at turning a supporting role into something audiences never forget. Paolo was not strong just because of the look. The role worked because Gary Marshall let Larry Miller push the comedy rhythm a long way. A lot of Paolo's bits were shaped in an improvisational way right there on set, and Anne Hathaway later said the broken brush moment in the makeover scene did not go as smoothly as planned. The brush had been set up to break, but when they shot it, it did not break at the right moment, so she and Larry had to handle it right there in the scene.
Because you saw me.
That is why that whole sequence feels so funny and so alive. The biggest turning point in Larry Miller's life came in 2012. He fell and hit his head on concrete near the studio where he was recording his podcast. After that fall, Larry went into a coma and had to stay on life support for a month. His spokesperson said at the time that Larry was right there between life and death. When he woke up, he still had to go through a very long recovery just to relearn basic cognitive functions. This was not some small stumble where a guy just gets back up. This was a life-changing blow strong enough to wipe out almost everything normal in a person's daily life. Larry Miller married and had 2 kids. Later, he returned to podcasting, and then The Larry Miller Show ended with its final episode on December 2nd, 2020. Right now, there is no confirmation that he will return for the Princess Diaries 3. Looking back at Paolo now, what stays with people is not just the laughter. It is also the image of a man who went right up to death's door, survived it, and left behind a short supporting role that audiences can almost never forget. And after that very brief explosion, this list closes out with a much quieter name, Shaun O'Brien, as Mr. Patrick O'Connell. Number 11, Shaun O'Brien as Patrick O'Connell. Shaun O'Brien played Patrick O'Connell, Mia's teacher, and later the man who became close to Helen, her mother. The role is not loud like Josh or Lana, but it keeps the everyday side of the Princess Diaries from disappearing under all the gowns, the etiquette, and the princess stuff. When the movie came out in 2001, Shaun was 38. This year he is 63. Before this movie, Shaun was already a very seasoned actor, showing up from the early 1990s onward in both film and television, with titles like Frankie and Johnny Chaplin Phenomenon, and then a whole long list of major series. So Patrick O'Connell was not the role that opened the door for him. It was just one more link in a very steady career. Shaun did not disappear after this movie either. He came back in The Princess Diaries 2 in 2004, then kept working steadily with Raising Helen, Mission Impossible 3, Vantage Point, Yes Man, The Middle Shameless Love, Victor, Babylon, and Missing. He is that kind of actor Hollywood always needs. Maybe not the one standing in the center of the poster, but always employed because people know he can do the job. Shaun O'Brien has been married to Samantha Follows since 1995 and has 2 daughters. One of those daughters, Rowan O'Brien, lives with cystic fibrosis. By 2019, Rowan had been on a lung transplant waiting list. That detail by itself is already heavy enough. After that, a new treatment drug helped improve her lung capacity enough for Rowan to attend UCLA, stay close to her family and medical team, and then graduate in 2023. Now she is pursuing the arts and has become a voice for the disability community. That real-life story is stronger than any supporting role Shaun ever played. Shaun O'Brien is still working now with new projects stretching into 2025 and 2026. As for The Princess Diaries 3, there is still no confirmation that he will be back. Ending this list with Shaun O'Brien actually feels right, not because he had the biggest role, but because in the end, the people who stay with you the longest are not always the loudest ones. Sometimes it is a quieter face carrying a family story strong enough to stay with you for a very long time. And before I wrap this list up, I want to save a small section for the people who are still here with me all the way to this point. Because if you are still here after 11 names, then maybe you are like me, not just wanting to know what happened to them, but also wanting to pull back the curtain a little and see how this movie was really made. First, Anne Hathaway almost got the role of Mia Thermopolis because of a clumsy little moment that felt exactly like Mia. During her audition, she fell off her chair. Sounds tiny, but that was the exact moment Gary Marshall saw what he needed. Not a girl trying to act awkward, but somebody who naturally had that awkwardness in her. So when you look back, Mia was already inside Anne from the beginning. The second fact is even better because it sits right inside a scene audiences remember really well. Mia's fall on the bleachers was not acting, it was a real accident. Anne said the scene was blocked around the timing between her and Heather Matarazzo. In one take, Heather moved faster than expected. Anne turned to follow her, slipped into a puddle, and really fell. Gary Marshall thought the moment felt too natural to lose, so he kept it in the movie. That is the kind of accident only old-school filmmaking knows how to turn into a beautiful memory. The third fact is tiny, but I absolutely love it because it makes Julie Andrews feel less like a monument and more like a real person. Anne Hathaway once said one of her funniest memories on set was hearing Julie Andrews curse. Yes, really Queen Clarice herself. That elegant woman who feels like she stepped out of a lost era of Hollywood was also the person who made Anne crack up over very normal, very human, little slip-ups. I love that detail because it reminds us that even legends are still people. The fourth fact belongs to Paolo. Larry Miller did not just step into the role of the stylist and read his lines. Gary Marshall and Larry Miller built a lot of Paolo's comedy right there on set. The scream when he first sees Mia, the way he lunges in with all his tools, that style of going just far enough and then a little too far, all of it made Paolo jump right off the screen. That is why the role is short and still burned itself into audience memory. And the last fact is a really nice one if you paid attention to Michael Moskowitz's storyline. Michael's band in the movie was not just some throwaway detail. In real life, Robert Schwarzman was the frontman of Rooney, and the music you hear in the film actually connects directly to his real life, too. So if just these 5 little pieces already show that The Princess Diaries has more layers than its fairy tale surface, then honestly, this movie could more than carry a full separate video on the 20 craziest behind-the-scenes facts. And if you want me to make that video, all you have to do is say the word. With this movie, I still have a whole lot more stories to tell. This is always going to be one of my favorite movies. I still remember so clearly being 12, sitting between my mom and dad in the theater watching The Princess Diaries come up on the big screen. That is why I have always believed this movie never separated men from women. It reached everybody just through its charm, its sincerity, and a really big heart. And looking back now, the thing that hits me hardest is just how far time has gone. 25 years. Just hearing that sounds hard to believe. Now people are bringing up part 3 again, and honestly, I feel both excited and nervous about it. I want to go back to Genovia one more time, but I am also scared of that familiar Hollywood curse that some beautiful things should be left exactly as they are in memory. So what about you? Do you really want The Princess Diaries 3 to happen, or should this movie be left untouched in the memory of our younger years? Share your thoughts in the comments and subscribe to the channel so we can keep going back together to the movies that made an unforgettable era.